Hello and welcome back to Pixel Pioneers, the podcast where we explore the ever-shifting landscape of digital tech. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Mark. Jenny, have you ever been deep into a mobile game, like really invested, maybe building up a base or leveling a character, and thought, man, I wish I could just pick this up on my big computer screen later?
Oh, definitely. More times than I can count, especially with some of those strategy games where the tiny screen feels a bit limiting after a while, or sometimes, honestly, just for comfort, Hunching over a phone isn't always ideal.
Right? Well, it feels like that's becoming less of a wish and more of a reality these days. Google's been making some serious moves with Google Play lately, really pushing this idea of playing your games wherever you happen to be.
Okay, so cross-platform gaming. We hear that term thrown around a lot. It sounds simple, but maybe we can start there. What does it times actually mean in this context, especially with what Google's doing, and why is it suddenly such a big focus?
Good starting point. So, at its core, cross-platform gaming is just that. The ability to play the same game across different types of devices. Think jumping from your Android phone during your commute, to your Windows PC when you get home, maybe even a Chromebook down the line.
So it's not just about having the same times game available on different stores, like buying it twice. It's about a connected experience, like my progress, my save file, maybe even my unlocked items. They carry over seamlessly?
Exactly. That's the ideal anyway. Your saves, your character, your purchases, all synced up through your Google account, in this case. And it's becoming important because, well, we don't live on just one device anymore, do we? We flip between phones, tablets, laptops. Plus, think about multiplayer. It potentially opens up playing with friends, regardless of whether they're glued to their phone or sitting at their computer.
The multiplayer aspect is interesting. It breaks down those walls between different hardware ecosystems. So what specific steps has Google taken recently? You mentioned Google Play and some buzz from GDC?
Yeah, so at the Game Developers Conference earlier this year, GDC 2025, they made some pretty significant announcements. They've been beta testing Google Play games on PC for a while now, letting you play times Android games on Windows. But now they're seriously expanding its scope and ambition.
Expanding how? Just adding more games to the beta?
More games, yes. Definitely. They highlighted some native PC titles like Game of Thrones, King's Road, popping up directly times the Play Store, which is interesting on its own. And they also mentioned popular mobile games being ported over, like that fishing horror game, DREDGE, coming to mobile. But the really big news, the part that made people raise their eyebrows, is they announced that effectively times mobile games on the Play Store will become available on PC through the Play Store by default.
Hang on. Automatically? Automatically? How does that even work? Aren't a huge number of mobile games designed purely for touch input? Or rely on things like tilting your phone? I'm picturing trying to play Fruit Ninja with a mouse. Seems awkward.
That is the million-dollar question. Times laughs. And yeah, the Fruit Ninja point is valid. They are providing tools for developers to help with this transition. Things like input mapping, which tries to translate touch controls to keyboard and mouse commands, and they're relying on some level of automatic compatibility or emulation layer to make this work. But it's a bold move for sure.
So, is it mandatory for developers? Are they being forced to put their mobile-only games onto PC?
No, there's an important caveat. Developers do times have the option to opt out. They can choose to exclude their games from Play games on PC if they feel the experience isn't suitable, or if they want to maintain mobile exclusivity for strategic reasons, or maybe if they plan a separate, dedicated PC version later.
Okay, that opt-out sounds crucial. Phew. Because flooding the PC store with games that just don't work well could be frustrating. But for the ones that are times included, how do players know if a game will actually run well on their PC, especially if it was originally designed for a tiny phone screen and touch input?
Good question. They're trying to manage expectations with something called Playability badges. Think of them like little labels you'll see on the game's store page. Optimized, playable, or untested.
Optimized sounds good. That means the developer put in extra work for the PC version?
Exactly. Optimized means the developer has specifically tweaked it for PC, maybe redesigned menus, properly mapped controls, ensured performance is smooth. Playable suggests it should work reasonably well with the automatic translation stuff, but maybe don't expect perfection. And untested, well, that label pretty much says it all. You're venturing into the unknown.
Untested sounds a bit like Here Be Dragons. So it helps manage expectations, which is good. But still, even playable might have issues. You mentioned tools. How are they making this technically feasible beyond just control mapping? Getting a potentially complex mobile game to run smoothly on diverse PC hardware must involve some clever tech, right?
It does. They're leaning heavily on improved graphics APIs, particularly Vulkan. Getting technical.
Laughs. Go on, Professor Mark. Just keep it high level for us mortals. Think. Analogy.
Okay. Analogy time. Think of Vulkan like a super efficient translator between the game's instructions and your computer's graphics card. Older translators might be slower or get confused with complex sentences. But Vulkan is designed to be much more direct and faster, letting the game talk to the hardware more efficiently. This means developers can often get better performance and visuals, especially across a wider range of hardware, without as much overhead.
Okay, faster translator, less getting lost in translation. Got it. What else?
They also mentioned improvements to things like the Android Dynamic Performance Framework, ADPF. Think of this like a smart thermostat for the game. It helps the game adapt to the device it's running on in real time, managing power consumption and performance smartly. So, if your PC starts getting hot or needs to save battery, ADPF can help the game adjust smoothly, preventing sudden slowdowns or overheating.
So, better graphics potential with Vulkan, smoother performance tuning with ADPF. That sounds promising for making these mobile games feel less like awkward ports. Does this push open things up to more types of PCs too? I feel like the beta was a bit limited.
Yes, that was another key point. They announced upcoming support for AMD devices. Previously, Play Games on PC was more focused on Intel hardware, specifically needing certain virtualization features. Adding AMD compatibility significantly broadens the potential user base. Many gaming PCs use AMD processors and graphics cards, so this is a big step towards making it accessible to more people.
More potential players, and they're trying to pull those players in too, right? I think I read something about play points being involved.
Yep, they mentioned reward boosters, like a 10x multiplier on play points for certain actions within this cross-platform context. Maybe for trying a game on PC for the first time, or making a purchase that syncs across devices. It's a clear way to encourage people to actually download the Play Games on PC client, try out playing on their computer, and generally engage more with the whole Google ecosystem.
Makes sense. Get people hooked on the convenience and the points. Let's circle back to that developer opt-out option though. It sounds good for quality control, but why would a developer choose times not to have their game available on potentially millions more PC screens? More players sounds like a good thing, usually.
There are definitely valid reasons. As you mentioned earlier, maybe their game is fundamentally built around touch controls or mobile-specific features like gyroscopes or augmented reality, and translating that to a mouse and keyboard just wouldn't work well, or would feel completely wrong. Imagine a rhythm game relying on multi-touch swipes.
Okay, yeah, control scheme limitations.
Brand perception is another one. Perhaps they feel the experience would be subpar on PC without significant redevelopment effort, and they don't want to release something playable or untested that might frustrate players and damage the reputation of their game or studio. They might prefer to wait and invest in a proper, optimized version down the line.
So, quality control from the developer's side. Protecting their work. That makes sense. Any other strategic reasons?
Sure. Some developers might have plans for a dedicated PC release later, maybe through a different platform like Steam or the Epic Games Store. They might want that version to have unique features, higher fidelity graphics, or a different monetization model specifically for the PC audience. And putting a quick mobile port on Google Play Games now could conflict with that strategy.
That brings up the competition aspect. You mentioned Steam. How does this big push by Google position them against established PC gaming platforms like Steam or the Epic Games Store? Is this a direct challenge?
It's definitely a challenge, though maybe an indirect or adjacent one, at least initially. Steam is, the behemoth of native PC gaming, built around games developed for *PC first. Google Play Games on PC is primarily about bridging the mobile and PC worlds, offering this massive library of mobile-first titles. That's a different catalog focus. But it times does mean players might spend more time, and potentially money, within Google's ecosystem on their PC, potentially pulling attention and gaming hours away from other launchers like Steam. If you can easily play your favorite mobile time killer on your PC through Google Play, maybe you're less likely to fire up Steam for a quick session.
So it's blurring the lines. You might not need a separate gaming PC launcher if your Android games are right there in the Play Store app on your computer. It lowers the barrier for more casual players to game on their PCs, maybe folks who primarily game on their phones but have a laptop.
Potentially, yes. And by also bringing sometimes native PC titles into the Play Store, like that Game of Thrones example, Google seems to be aiming for a more unified gaming hub across all your devices. One store, multiple platforms.
Okay, but let's be critical for a moment. We talked about the playable and untested badges. What about the actual player experience? Even if a game is technically playable, could it still feel, well, clunky? Or just plain bad? There's research suggesting games needing precise input, like first-person shooters or MOBAs, often struggle when controls are just adapted from touch.
Oh, for sure. That's a significant concern. Compatibility doesn't always equal a good times experience. A game designed for quick taps on a small screen might feel slow or awkward with a mouse pointer. Menus might be weirdly scaled for a large monitor. Performance could stutter on some hardware configurations, even if it technically runs. Input lag could be an issue, especially in faster-paced games. Those playable or untested tags might hide a lot of potential frustration.
And this leads to another potential issue people raise: market dilution. If suddenly times thousands of mobile games, many potentially unoptimized, flood the PC space via the Play Store, could that make it harder for dedicated, original PC games, especially from smaller indie developers, to get noticed?
That's a valid point some critics bring up. The signal-to-noise ratio could become a problem. While more choice is generally good for consumers, discovery becomes harder. If the Play Store on PC becomes dominated by mobile ports of varying quality, it might inadvertently bury unique PC experiences, particularly those niche or indie titles that rely on platforms like Steam for visibility.
And what about how these games make money? Mobile games often rely heavily on in-app purchases or ads. Does moving them to PC change that? If I can play on PC now, maybe I'm less likely to buy the ad-free version on mobile? Or does it encourage spending because it's easier on a bigger screen?
That's another area with differing viewpoints. On one hand, having your progress and purchases sync across devices could encourage more times engagement and spending overall. Maybe you buy an item on PC and use it on mobile later. It removes friction. But developers might worry too. Will PC players, accustomed perhaps to different models like one-time purchases on Steam, react negatively to aggressive mobile-style monetization? And does offering the game on PC potentially cannibalize sales of a separate, premium PC version they might have planned?
So it simplifies things for the player in theory, but adds complexity and uncertainty for developers regarding revenue and market positioning. It feels like there's a lot of potential here, but also quite a few hurdles and potential downsides to navigate. Room for some awkward growing pains as this rolls out more broadly.
Definitely. It's a transition, a big experiment in many ways, but the overall direction seems clear. Google wants to make games accessible wherever you are, on whatever device you have handy. The tech like Vulkan and ADPF helps enable better technical performance. The expanded hardware support like AMD brings in more users, and the platform itself is trying to make it easier. Even if perfect execution across every game is a tall order right now.
So looking ahead, what's the next logical step? Just more games getting the optimized badge? Better tools for developers?
Pretty much. Expect to see more developers leveraging these tools to create genuinely thoughtful cross-platform experiences, rather than just relying on the default compatibility. We'll likely see Google continue refining the underlying tech. Better input translation, improved performance, maybe even more sophisticated graphics features becoming possible over time, and broader device support will likely continue. Maybe integration with more types of hardware or operating systems.
It really does feel like the lines between mobile gaming and PC gaming are getting fuzzier and fuzzier. Maybe soon we just call it gaming?
Maybe. It's certainly less about the specific box under your TV or the phone in your pocket, and more about the player having seamless access to their games and progress. Google's push is a significant factor in accelerating that shift.
Well, it's certainly something we'll be keeping a close eye on. Thanks for breaking all that down, Mark. It's a lot to digest. The tech, the strategy, the potential pitfalls, but interesting stuff nonetheless.
Anytime. It's fascinating to watch this ecosystem evolve.
And we want to know what you, our listeners, think. Are you excited about playing more of your mobile library on your PC? Or are you concerned about the quality or the impact on dedicated PC gaming? We're putting up a poll on our website asking just that. Will this cross-platform push change how you game?
Yeah, let us know. What features are most important for you in a cross-platform experience? Is it the seamless saves, optimized controls, or just having access? Find us on social media or drop a comment on the episode page. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Pixel Pioneers. Until next time,
Keep exploring.